to read this out, I guess, and see what I observed in this woman. So I met a woman at 37 weeks pregnant. Her baby was transverse, which means baby was sideways in her belly. And so she was told she had to have a caesarean the very next week. And she freaked out at that point and decided that she was going to get a doula. And that kind of surprised me a little bit too, because obviously she knew what a doula was. And I thought, why aren't you having a doula there for your natural birth? So, but anyway, so that means she would have had to have gone in at 38 weeks. Bless this strong woman for stalling the surgery until 39 weeks, 5 days. But I'd mentioned through our talks that I couldn't find peace with this. Why couldn't they wait until she went into labour naturally? And if then the baby had not turned, then she could opt for the surgery. After all, that's what our medical practitioners are there for the very rare occasion that we actually need them. It seems as though many practices have become routine and outdated, particularly like immediate cord clamping, vaginal examinations, and telling a woman to labour on her back. So, as her doula, I helped prepare the mum emotionally for the caesarean. And we shifted the perception and saw it as natural, because having babies is natural. We talked about being calm and positive during the birth, because this will aid in giving her baby a gentle birth. And on the scheduled day, I got to her place an hour early, and she lay down on the couch listening to birth affirmations and meditations. When we arrived at the hospital, I dimmed the lights and gave her a head massage, and she was comfy and grounded in the hospital bed, listening to music, waiting to meet her baby. Then her midwife came in, and she checked her belly, which is quite invasive if anyone's had there where they want to feel the position of the baby. It's like, whoa. And the baby had turned. So the midwife went to get the surgeon, and the surgeon arrived, and he checked her belly. The baby had turned. So he said he'd go and speak to the other surgeon. Then the anaesthetist arrived. Oh, he says as he checks the paperwork, your baby has turned and they're still going ahead with it. Okay. I sat back observing. No one was speaking up. No one was chatting with the mother and offering her a choice of where to go from here. And she trusted her doctors, and I think we all trust our doctors to do what's right, and that could possibly be our biggest downfall. Now, I hadn't known this woman for very long. I didn't know her fears, her strengths, her true feelings and understanding of birth. I'd literally met her twice before this day. As I said, she was already 37 weeks pregnant. Honestly, I could see she wasn't radical enough to say, screw you guys, my baby's turn, I'll be damned if you cut me. But this woman had put a lot of effort into preparing for this day and feeling calm about surgery, so to walk out now would be a whole lot more work. I've reflected back a few times actually and wished I had have voiced her choice. I wish I had have asked more questions and been more radical instead of just an emotional support, quietly observing. Perhaps if this wasn't my very first birth as a doula, I would have asked more. Perhaps if I had journeyed with her longer, I would have asked more. I just allowed her to do what she needed to do and offered my heart to her space so she didn't feel scared and alone. I remember her husband being there, but he didn't hold her hands while they sort of groped her stomach. He didn't say anything nice to her. He left the room quite a lot and was just sitting out in the waiting area because there was more space. I'm not sure if he was doing that because I was there. But yeah, I was thinking, thank God she's got a doula. So anyway, after surgery, she was shaking really bad, like convulsing on the bed. And I was shocked to see this, and I asked her if she was cold. And the midwife heard me and came over and took her temperature. And she was hot. She had a high temperature. I remember putting my hands on her, and I could feel her energy levels were low. The surgery had really taken a lot out of her. While I was waiting for her to come out of the surgery, I'd been given the placenta to organise its pickup for an encapsulator. And the energy that was vibrating from the bag was really strong. I remember scooping some of it up in my hand and put it in my boot for later. Anyone who's a energy worker will understand what I'm talking about. Anyone else probably thinks I'm crazy right now. So I then put this energy into the mum and baby as she was shaking on the bed. I guess every little bit helps. Seeing the energy from the placenta confirmed my feelings towards Lotus birth. I had felt and seen my daughter's energy transfer from her placenta to her. I wondered what happened if you had just cut the placenta away. And so the energy stays with the placenta. I'd be interested in walking through an encapsulation. I wonder if the energy hangs around and is in the pills or not. And if the energy is in the pills, then does mum get it? And will maybe then the baby get some of it being around mum. So later I found out she shook for 12 hours. They were concerned she had a virus, so they took her baby to the nursery and gave him antibiotics. Dad was between the two rooms, not wanting to leave either of them alone for too long, and they didn't think to call me as further support. This caesarean at the hospital she'd done the very first seeding at this hospital. Cool. And we felt quite blessed to be part of this change, but unfortunately that whole seeding benefit was then wiped out by the antibiotics anyway. Yeah. When I visited her 1 week later, she wasn't interested in holding her baby or keeping him close as we sat in the lounge talking. She left him awake in the bedroom up the hall. My heart sank as I could feel the connection between them just wasn't strong, and I wonder, did she really need that caesarean? Upon doing my research, I found out many women are reacting to the epidural. They shake for hours and have a high temperature, and the medical industry doesn't know why. Yet they are taking away these babies and giving them antibiotics as a precaution. Precaution to what if they don't really know what is going on? Alarm bells are still continuing in my head. Originally they thought maybe there was an obstruction so the baby couldn't turn, but he did turn. He turned out to be in a breech position, which the surgeon wasn't expecting, so it took a little longer to get him out. Then he was rushed to the resuscitation table. The mother is very proud of herself for remaining calm even when he got rushed off. She said she felt that he would be okay. And maybe the caesarean would have gone ahead anyway if the baby stayed breech. But this also annoys me because there are beautiful breech births happening out there with the right care providers. All women should have the same access and support in natural delivery until it literally gets to the point that it's impossible. I really feel they went ahead with her surgery that day because it would have been too much paperwork sending her home. It was booked, it was convenient. This woman will never realise the lack of bonding she has with her child until she bonds with a future one. There is something about a caesarean mum who has never experienced a natural birth. I've seen it in a few women now. They almost seem frail. They lack something. It's an energy thing. It's like when you birth naturally and you get to open your chakras, and being in the birth current, you receive a touch of something really special that changes you forever. But when you are cut open, you are spiritually cut open and you are robbed of this. You are just another person who has gone in for surgery and recovered, but now have a baby to care for. No one has ever walked out more empowered after any type of surgery, yet women walk out empowered when they own their birth. It sucks that we can't really talk about this more. A lot of C-section mums feel like you're putting their birth down, or they say, I walked out happy, I enjoyed my birth, I've got a healthy baby. And that may be the case, but they still don't hold that energy a natural birth acquires to a woman.
Did you want to talk about this, Mo?
Yeah, and I thought Mo could go into her experiences now, because Mo, her first birth was a caesarean, and then she had a beautiful VBAC story, and I was wondering on your thoughts, just from my observation, as I said, just about that energy, and just I can see that difference in women. I was wondering if you could feel that in yourself through the two births.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think having my second baby naturally changed a lot of things for me emotionally and physically and spiritually.
I think the spiritual part's something we don't hear a lot on.
Yeah, absolutely. So after having the caesarean experience, and I was just kind of thinking of the story Chicken Little when you were talking about the doctor talking to the doctor and the, the surgery and the surgery and the sky is falling, and the sky's not really falling.
No one wanted to take responsibility, I think.
Yeah, and nothing was actually going on. Yeah. So it just reminded me of the story Chicken Little, and I think that's what happens with the cascade of effect. But so after that experience, which was traumatic, that birthing experience, and it needn't had been, but it was, and I think a lot of women would be able to relate to that. I was fortunate enough to realise what I needed to do when I felt pregnant the next time. And I didn't want to go down that path, and I knew the way that I wasn't going to go down that path was to do things the way that to follow my instincts, which was what I was trying to do initially, but my fault was that I had engaged a industrial power, and that had run me over. So this time I decided to do it my way, and I engaged a doula, and I asked that doula to be with me through that whole process of going through that birth trauma, like working through that, and there are ways to do that through the YSBO program, ways to do that. There's ways to actually heal from that process. But what I found was having a natural birth, a home birth, the way that I initially wanted to the first time, really changed that trauma for me. It was a healing process for me, which I wouldn't have been able to go through any other way, I don't think, because I had tried other ways of dealing with that trauma, but it was still there. And it'll still always be there. But now
still
it's
been robbed of that experience, so having to get to experience that would definitely help.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you like me to talk a bit about that? About what that was like? So,
yeah, sure.
So with my second one, I actually didn't attend any appointments at all. I didn't go to the GP, and I wasn't sick.
Nope.
I didn't want to go to any appointments to get poked and prodded, and we decided that we would be at home and we'd have a birthing pool, which is what we had the first time. So the process was the same as the first birth. Just the difference was I didn't engage the medical model into what I was doing.
You felt like you had more control, more power.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it just felt right for me. So I knew I wasn't far away if I needed intervention, if I needed that. But this time, the fear of birthing wasn't there. I'd kind of had that process. I had fortunately gone through a long labour process with my first birth, so I knew what that was going to feel like. Which was good. The labour was really fast for my second one. I was in true labour, I'd call it true labour, when you really feel like you're opening and everything's happening, for only a few hours, which was great. But I really enjoyed that process this time. I knew what it was going to be, and I felt supported, and I felt empowered by that process. And there were moments of actual pleasure during that process. I felt really connected to my husband in a lot of ways, emotionally, sexually, because it's a sexual thing. Making a baby, having a baby, it's all part of our sexuality. I felt really connected to nature in a way I can't explain. It's experiential. That you just feel connected to everything that's greater and bigger than you. You're part of creation, really.
It's the birth current.
That is
powerful.
powerful.
The birth current. There's a certain energetic force that comes through a woman as she's opening and having that baby, and it sounds like you got showered in that because you had an undisturbed process.
So it was really a beautiful process, and I think that's how birth can be and should be for all of us. Just that connection of which gave me a lot of understanding about a lot of things afterwards. But anyway, sounds very whoop-whoop, sounds a bit airy-fairy, but that's how it was for me. I'm Māori, so I felt connected to my atua, which is my spiritual guides. I'm also Christian, and I felt really connected to God as well. So that really helped me through that process. And yeah, just an ethereal